G'day guys, welcome back to the Backyard Workshop DIY. Today we're going to have a look at how I made this rack for my lathe chisels for under 10 bucks. Let's have a look. So I started out by grabbing these 3 cypress pine fence palings from my local hardware store, only $4 each. And to be honest, I only ended up using one and a half of them. So really cheap, some beautiful grains, and a good starting point for me. Pretty simple to get started. I knew I wanted the rack to be 400 wide, so it was dimensioned 3 pieces of timber at 400 millimeters wide. With my timber dimensioned, it was time to mark everything out. Now, this took a bit of time at the start, but spending the time to do it and getting it right made my job a lot easier throughout. So here I was marking out where the timber would overlap, so where my joinery would go, also where we would set each of the holes for the chisels to go into, including making the 2 different rows different sizes. Now this is where taking the time and effort to mark out accurately really paid off. It meant I was able to go straight through and pilot drill all the holes for the chisels to slide into, as well as my joinery holes. It was pilot hole, then through the spade bit. As I said, 2 different sizes. The front row is done at 22 millimeters, and the rear row, or the top deck if you will, is done at 25 millimeters to suit some larger chisels that I have. Before we move on, it was time for a quick little hit with the palm router, just to put a little chamfer on each of the holes to make sure the chisels can locate and slide in more easily once it's up on the wall. I decided really early on that I wanted to use some dowel joinery in this project, so once I was ready, I drilled some pilot holes and then eventually some 8mm holes so I could fit my doweling pins in to mark up where the dowels would need to be received on the opposing piece of timber. For those of you who may not have used doweling pins or doweling markers before, they are that simple. An 8mm hole, line up my timber, then push down and those pins will mark to let me know where I need to drill on the receiving piece of timber. Always have a little bit of fun popping these out. Make sure they don't hit the floor though, otherwise they can be hard to find. With all the marking up, drilling, cutting done, it was definitely time to get the sander out and get rid of all those marks, and also get the timber ready for assembly and then finish. First things first, wanted to make sure those dowels were in there nice and tight, so I glued them in separately and let that dry for a while before then matching up. Now, moment of truth, were these drilled in line? And yes, they were. We slid in there nice and easily, and that started off our joinery. Repeat the same process on the top deck neck. Because this is going to be taking a fair bit of weight once all the chisels are on it, I decided to also add some screws for some extra stability. With those, it was a case of drill, countersink, and screw. I wasn't quite happy with how the timber was presenting at this point, so out with the sander and another quick hit, just to make sure it was ready for finish. I chose to finish the tool rack with some Walrus oil chopping board oil, purely because I thought it would really make those grain patterns in the cypress pine really come to life, and end of the day, if it's on the wall, I wanted it to look good. So there you have it guys, a finished chisel rack. A piece and a half of $4 cypress pine fence paling, so nice and cheap. All up, if I take out time waiting for glue to dry, only about 2 hours worth of time went into the project, so nice and quick to do. And we now have a 14 chisel rack that I think looks pretty good, and it stores things in a nice handy fashion. Please don't forget to leave a comment below, like, share and subscribe, and make sure you ring that notification bell so you can get filled on new posts as they come. Have a good one, guys.